Hello YouTubers and welcome again. Today I have a 2015 Town and Country with a 3.6 liter engine, and this vehicle is cranking but not starting. It got stuck here in a parking lot, in a big parking lot, in a big building here on the street. It's not even in the house, it's not in the shop. So I was called here to come to diagnose the problem, and someone else will do the repairs. And also want to say that this goes from about 2010 all the way about around 2020, something like that, with a 3.6 liter engine, either for Chrysler, Jeep or Dodge. It's the same. They all have these problems. This vehicle is missing the 5 volts reference, and while it's missing that, it will have a serious problem. Alright, and here is the list of some of the codes I have here. You see all this code here, don't get confused or don't think it's gonna be hard to diagnose the problem. It's very easy, and this Chrysler, Jeep or Dodge with a 3.6 liter engine from about 2010, all the way around 2020, something like that, with a 3.6 liter engine. Any Jeep, Dodge or Chrysler will be the same procedure. I have done a few of these repairs already, and if you see a lot of codes here, don't pay attention to too many codes. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna be focusing only on this one here because this is the sensor reference voltage. I'm not gonna be worrying about this code too much. I'm gonna put them aside, focus on this one. And I have other two here, p0365 2138. This is a network of certain components, and with when one of them fails, then basically you get a lot of codes on these vehicles. Any Chrysler, Jeep or Dodge with a 3.6 liter engine, most of the time it's only one component. Most of the time it's a sensor. In this case, they already replaced the camshaft position sensor, and it didn't work on bank 1. It didn't work at all. With that in mind, I'm gonna move to the next step. Alright, and here I have the wire diagram also, because if I'm gonna be diagnosing the problem on these vehicles, that means I have to have the wire diagram, and I also have to know the manufacturer specifications. I'm gonna be showing you the wires, the pins that you're gonna be using to work on every component here: accelerator pedal position sensor, camshaft position sensor, and the other camshaft position sensor, bank 2, and here is the map sensor, powertrain control module. This is the neutral safety switch. These are the pins that you're gonna be working on, number 6 on this one, and the color of the wire here. Now you might be a little surprised, the color of the wires on these vehicles look a little bit different. I kind of had a hard time identifying them, but you go by the order of the pins. I'm going to be showing you the order of the pins. As a matter of fact, let me just go really quick here. As you can see, this is the order of the pins of every component in question, every component you're going to be testing. You probably will not have to go through all of them, because let's say if you test this sensor first and you find a problem right away on that sensor, then you will not have to go to the rest of them. So, but this is the order of the pins here, 1, 2, 3, as you can see, and you're gonna be working on the pins I'm telling you right now. Here, as you can see, pin number 2, and the 2 camshaft position sensors. If you're gonna test the map sensor, then you have to work on pin 3, so and so on. And this leave it as a last, the PCM and the neutral safety switch, for 2 reasons. The neutral safety switch has a lot of wires, but you're gonna be working on pin 4, and if you have to work on this sensor, but I would suggest you to leave it as a last. And the PCM also leave it as a last, unless you have no other choice. This is what I do, and so far I have done about 6 or 7 of these repairs, and till today I have not disconnected one of these yet, unless I would have to, if I wouldn't have any choice. But if you have to, you have to work on pin 27 and the connector 1 on the PCM. And this is the color of the wire here, brown and yellow. So just in case, if you find a problem on one of these sensors, you will not have to go through any of this, because it will take more time anyway. And besides, the disconnecting the PCM is a little bit, those connectors are a little bit funny. Sometimes some people have broken them. I have seen that, so be careful with that. Now the repair I'll be doing here on this vehicle, basically diagnosis, because I was called to come here only to diagnose the problem. This truck, this van has gotten stuck in a big parking lot here in a big building. So it's not even in a house or in a shop or something like that, but it's in a building. So I'm gonna be just doing the diagnosis here, and someone else will do the repairs. That's what they told me. If I tell them what parts need to be replaced, then they will replace them. And this vehicle is cranking but not starting, so it will be treated as a crank, not start. And here I want to go to camshaft position sensor 1 before anything. This is the sensor you're gonna be using. You're gonna be using the connector of this sensor to test the rest of the sensors. For instance, you start by checking this sensor here, by testing this sensor if it's good or it's bad. So you have to disconnect this camshaft position sensor since the beginning, and you have to keep it disconnected at all times. Once you disconnect it, you disconnect the next sensor you're gonna be testing. Let's say you're gonna be testing this one, the accelerator pedal position sensor, to diagnose this kind of problems on these vehicles, and Chrysler, Jeep or Dodge, any of these vehicles that have the 3.6 liter engine from about 2010 all the way around or about 2020, something like that. So with that in mind, let's keep going here, because this is very important, and this is where everything is gonna start. You disconnect it. Once you disconnect it, make sure you back probe the connector and wire number 2. That's why here I have a big number here, wire number 2. You're gonna use body ground. Make sure you choose a very good spot to make good ground. Remember, this has to be disconnected at this point, only disconnected. Once you have both of them disconnected, and the red multimeter lead and this wire here and wire number 2, and making a good ground, just turn the ignition switch on. Do not crank the engine, just ignition switch on. And watch the voltage here. Watch the voltage on the connector of the camshaft position sensor 1. I'll tell you what to get to know if this sensor is bad or is good. I'll tell you in a little while, because I'll be working physically on the van in just 1 minute. If this sensor is good, take the key out of the ignition before connecting it back. Once you have turned the ignition switch to off position, then you can connect it and move to the next one, to any of the sensors. And that's how you're gonna be testing all of them. Now the big question, you tested all the sensors and they all came out good, so what is the problem? And remember, we've been using camshaft position sensor 1 and bank 1 to test the rest of the sensors, but what happens is they all came out good. So what about camshaft position sensor 1, the one we've been using to test the other sensors? So we have to test this one too. Let's see it, and I'll show you how to test it right now. What you do is you just leave the camshaft position sensor 1 disconnected as it is, and come to camshaft position sensor 2 here, but do not disconnect the cam sensor 2, just leave it connected. And back probe wire number 2 or pin number 2, and turn the ignition switch on and see what you get in the multimeter. I'll tell you in a second what you're supposed to get in the multimeter for you to determine if the sensor is good or bad. So I'll tell you that in a second. Here is the map sensor, for example. As you can see, you're gonna be working on wire number 3 here, as you can see. And let's see, this is the camshaft position sensor. As you can see, you're gonna be working on wire number 2. We already saw that. And body ground, as you can see. And all right, and here again, one more time really quick, here is the order of the pins here of the connectors. As you can see, all of them. That's why I don't like to come to here. As you can see, the neutral safety switch, because so many wires. But remember, you're gonna be working on wire number 4 in case if you have to. I just don't like to work on these two, PCM connector and these ones. I leave it as a last, and so far I haven't even worked on these ones when I have done these repairs. Alright, and this is a setup I made just for the purpose of showing that you have to be testing on the wire number 2, pin number 2 right there, you can see. That is the connector of the camshaft position sensor on bank 2, and then this is ground here. I wasn't making a good ground right there. I had a hard time. The best spot to put the negative multimeter lead is on the cylinder head on the side right there on the right hand side. So with this in mind, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the test. Alright, now I'm testing the camshaft position sensor number 2, bank 2, and for that you have to disconnect it. See, that's the connector right there here, and I have disconnected because I'm testing it right now. And for that you have to keep the red multimeter lead on the pin number 2 or wire number 2 on camshaft position sensor number 1, and try to make good ground. We're making ground here on the cylinder head right there. And you do this test with the ignition switch on, remember that. Okay, and here we are disconnecting the accelerator pedal position sensor because we're gonna be testing it right now. Remember, camshaft position sensor 1 has to be disconnected because you have to use the pin number 2 to measure the voltage when you disconnected this one. Okay. Vale, ahora haga lo mismo. Lo mismito. Con buen contacto. Siempre se agarra de las puntas. And remember, ignition switch on, and we're gonna measure the voltage on pin number 2 on the camshaft position sensor 1, bank 1. There it goes. See? 4.97 volts. Red multimeter lead right there on pin number 2, wire number 2 on the camshaft position sensor, and then body ground. And ground here, that's a camshaft position sensor 1. We did it the first time here. This one it seems like it's good according to the test, and still here. And see the accelerator pedal position sensor right there is disconnected because I had to disconnect it to test it. Since the voltage went above 4.75, that means this accelerator pedal position sensor is bad. And all you do is disconnect one sensor at a time and then connect it back once you're done testing it, and go to the next one until you find the one that makes the voltage go above 4.75 volts. And remember, to test a component you have to disconnect it first and then turn the ignition switch on, and then measure the voltage at the pin number 2 or wire number 2 on the camshaft position sensor 1, bank 1, and body ground. And if the voltage goes above 4.75 volts, like this one went above, then the component is bad. Póngale la llave, ignition switch on. Now this test can be done in a different way too, and I'm gonna be showing it right now. And I'm not gonna be using the camshaft position sensor on bank 1 anymore. Instead, I'm gonna be using the camshaft position sensor on bank 2 without disconnecting it this time, and let's see if the voltage goes up once we turn on the ignition switch. Siempre en el mismo cable, ¿verdad?
Sí, el mismo amarillo.
And the only sensor disconnected at this moment is the accelerator pedal position sensor, because that's the one we're testing right now at this moment. Está haciendo buen contacto ahí.
Ya vamos a ver, ahí se va a ver. Vea.
Alright, 4.97 volts again.
4.97.
4.97. Okay. Okay, now the car should be able to start right now. El carro debería de prender ahorita. Déjelo ahí. Vamos a ver si prende. Quite el. Sí. Ahorita debería de prender el carro. So the voltage went up again to almost 5 volts, 4.97, and also I was able to turn on the engine because the accelerator pedal position sensor is still disconnected. But if I connect it back, the engine is not gonna turn on anymore. And this was another way to show how you can do the same test again without disconnecting any other sensors. So we have a bad accelerator pedal position sensor. Alright, update. The part was ordered because nobody had it at the moment, and when it arrived 2 days later, the guy installed it, the accelerator pedal position sensor, and the problem was fixed. Thanks for watching the video, and God bless you all.